Okay. All right. So we talked about the 64 limbs of devotional service. Oops, sorry. And then we said that 5 of those are the most important. They're all important, but 5 of them are most important. They're also the 5 that Lord Chaitanya emphasized for everyone. And anybody remembers what those 5 were?
Chanting.
Okay, what else?
Reading of Srimad Bhagavatam Gita.
Devotional, devotee association.
Devotees association, that is worship.
Deity worship, reside
And
in
reside
Dham.
in
Okay.
Yep.
So what kind of deities do we worship?
Krishna.
Rishi? Huh? Sorry, say again.
Krishna, deities of Krishna.
That's it?
Shyam Sundar.
Ram,
Radha Krishna, okay. Who else? Gaunitai.
Gopal.
Okay, yeah. All right. So yeah, you got it. I mean, that's just a silly question I was asking because I know everybody knows it. And what kind of dham are we talking about to reside?
Vrindavan Dham.
Vrindavan, Mathura,
Mathura.
Vrindavan, Dwarka.
Okay.
Dwarka.
What else?
Mayapur Dham.
Mayapur.
Mayapur Dham. That's right. Non-different from Vrindavan. Okay, so that was basically what we talked about. So now, are there any questions or comments from last class before I move on? No? Okay, all right. In that case, let's just go to our this week's class. And what we're going to do is, excuse me. So chapter 7 is entitled Evidence Regarding Devotional Principles. Sorry? Okay. All right. So evidence regarding devotional principles. So basically in chapter 6, as you just saw, we listed 64 items. What kind of bhakti were they from? Was it sadhana bhakti? Was it bhav bhakti? Was it prema bhakti? What do we talk about 64 main limbs? Anyone? Which bhakti?
Sadhana Bhakti Prabhu.
Sadhana bhakti. Thank you. Very good. So after listing those 64 items, Rupa Goswami now is going to substantiate all of them with scriptural evidence. And that's very important because it's not an emotional discussion, well, I know this, therefore it's right. But everything these Goswamis or Acharyas say, they support it with a scriptural evidence. So it does not become like I said, you said, or I don't like what you said. Hey, there's a proof. It's like in a court of law. The lawyers will produce rulings or laws that say, this is what it is. And then the judge does not argue. Same thing here. There's no room for disagreement or argument because here's the proof. So this chapter 7 is basically providing the proof why these items are included in sadhana bhakti. Okay. So in this chapter, we're going to talk about the first 18 items. And, appropriately or most appropriately, the chapter starts with the most crucial item that we're going to see in a minute. Because unless we follow that item, we're not going to make any progress. In other words, this principle opens the door to the rest of the 64 items of sadhana bhakti. And the reason, as you will see very soon, is that it's talking about accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, and that the spiritual master instructs the disciple about the execution and significance of the other 63 items. Okay, so before I ask anybody to read this, and I'm just going to open the page. I think we're on page 59 in my book. It's on yours as well, chapter 7, evidence regarding those principles. 59, okay. So let's have someone read the first paragraph, which starts with accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master.
Shall I try, Prabhuji?
Of course you can.
Accepting the shelter of bona fide spiritual master. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd chapter, verse 21, Prabhupada tells
No,
Maharaj.
not Prabhupada, Prabhuddha.
Oh, sorry. Prabhupada. Because we always see Prabhupada's name. Prabhupada tells Maharaj Nimi, my dear king, please know for certain that in the material world, there is no happiness. It is simply a mistake to think that there is happiness here, because this place is full of nothing but miserable conditions. Any person who is seriously desirous of achieving real happiness must seek out a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of a spiritual master is that he must have realized the conclusion of the scriptures by deliberation and arguments, and thus be able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, are to be understood as bona fide spiritual masters. Everyone should try to find such a bona fide spiritual master in order to fulfill his mission of life, which is to transfer himself to the plane of spiritual bliss.
Thank you. So before I go on further, does anybody know who Prabhuddha is?
One of the Navayogis, Prabhu.
Yes, Mother, thank you. So maybe another harder question. Do we know the names?
Not all of them, Prabhu, but I know Pipalainer.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Prabhupada.
go with the words you know. That's okay.
I just know a couple, that's it.
That's okay. Go with couple.
Pipalainer.
Pipalayan, yes. Yes.
Pipalayan.
Yeah.
Prabhuddha.
Yes.
Kavi.
Yes.
I know I learned all this and I forgot, Prabhu.
That's okay.
Small brains.
Anybody wants to help her? Okay, all right. So, I mean, it's not important to memorize all of them, but just so you know, there's Anturich, there's Havi, there's Avirhot, Drumil, Chamas, and Karbhajan. Karbhajan is very famous. Anyway, so it's Prabhupada speaking here to King Nimi, and basically they were discussing the futility of sense gratification, whether it's in the heaven, or heavenly planet, or in the earth planet, but they're all useless. So after discussing that, Prabhupada is making a suggestion to King Nimi, and I'm going to share the screen one more time and put the verse up. Okay. Okay. There you go. Okay, so why? Okay, it's hiding. Okay, so does somebody want to try the verse? It's on the screen.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Oh, Radhamana Prabhu, please go ahead.
So it is a Tasmad Gurum Prapadeta Jina Suha Shreya
Jasu.
Uttamam. Jina Suha Shreya Ashreya Uttamam Shabde Parecha Nishnatam Brahmanya Upasama Shreyam.
Thank you. Very nice.
Yeah.
Would you like to read the translation?
Okay. Therefore, any person who seriously desires real happiness must seek a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of the bona fide guru is that he has realized the conclusions of scriptures by deliberations and is able to convince others of these conclusions. Such a great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material consideration, should be understood to be bona fide spiritual masters.
Thank you, Prabhu. So, okay, so would somebody like to tell me what are some of the symptoms of a bona fide spiritual master? You can read from the text, but let's list it out. What's the first one?
Vacho Vegam, Prabhuji, Vacho Vegam.
No, Prabhu, just go on the basis of this text.
Okay.
What does it say in this text? What's the first one?
Realize the conclusions of scriptures by deliberation.
Yes, thank you. So what does that mean? Realize the conclusions of the scriptures by deliberation. What does that mean?
By actually doing it, by his actions, by deliberating, he realized that, like his actions, he shows that these are the conclusions of the scriptures.
Okay, so that's part of it, but deliberation doesn't mean action though.
So deliberation, Prabhuji, means studying, understanding,
Ah,
and interpretation.
and thinking about it, trying to understand.
Thinking about it, meditation, yes.
Right? So basically, as you may know from Srila Goswami Ashtakam, they read it scrutinizingly. So basically, remember some time ago, we were talking about how to study Srimad Bhagavatam. And we said, first of all, we should know what is the context. Second, we should know what's actually being said. And part of that is to know that I can explain it to somebody else. So number two has two parts. What is it really being said? And the only way we will know what's really being said is if we feel confident, we can explain it to somebody else. So that's number two. And number three then is apply it in our life. That's what Nectar was saying. So those are the three ways or three parts of the way to study Srimad Bhagavatam. So here, same point is being made. Realize the conclusion. Realize means applying. So Nectar, you were right in that sense. Realizing means applying. So the applied knowledge is opposed to just the knowledge. So I memorize a verse, that's just knowledge. But I try to apply it, then that becomes applied knowledge. That's realization. So realize the conclusions of the scriptures by deliberation. Okay, so that's one point. So second point.
Able to convince others of these conclusions.
So what does that mean?
I mean, again, the same thing that because he's so convinced himself, he's realized, so he has the ability, and like Prabhupada, he was able to convince others so easily because he was convinced himself. So he was realized and he was able to transfer that message to others in very easily. So that's my understanding.
Right. So that's one of the skills required for that. You can be convinced, but still not be able to convince other people because of lack of one skill. What's that skill?
Well, that your faith, your belief, your
No. I'm talking about skill. Skill.
Oh,
What skill is required to convince other people of what you're convinced about?
Practice, Prabhu.
Sorry?
Follow what? Practice, Prabhu.
Practice a little more than that. So I was saying something different. So like, for example, Padmakshri Kamati, if you're convinced that, the best way to get to your house is through Steele's Avenue or something like that, how will you convince me? You're not going to take me there.
Confidence.
Yes, but there's a very basic skill I'm thinking about, communication.
Oh,
So you have to have the ability to persuade and convince others through your skills of communication. So a bona fide guru should be a good communicator so he can tell the disciples. And remember, some of the disciples that all gurus have, but Srila Prabhupada that we talk about were real rascals, and try to convince them was not an easy task. But Srila Prabhupada was a master communicator, so he could do that. Okay, what's the third one? What's the third characteristic?
Apply to one's life, Prabhuji.
Yeah, we talked about that. What's the third one? Or the next
Purity.
one? No, just read the text. Just read the text.
Yeah, who has taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord.
Right. So what does that mean?
Yeah,
Taking
he
shelter.
follows all the instruction of the Shastras at letter and spirit, and his parampara. Yeah,
Yes, so totally dependent upon the Lord.
totally dependent.
Completely dependent on God. I have no other wish than your wish, my Lord. Okay, I do whatever you ask me to do, and I know what you want me to do. Okay, what's the next one?
Leaving aside all material considerations.
What does that mean?
Does that verse apply here? Anya abhilashita shunyam?
Absolutely does.
Yeah, so I guess,
Absolutely does. Yeah.
so there is nothing else other than just pleasure of Krishna, love
Yeah.
of God. That's
And
all.
also what Kadwanga Prabhu was saying earlier, Vacho Vegam, Manasko Vegam, all those are just, they all apply here.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I just want to make sure that we do this twice, once by reading and once by answering the questions, because this is a very important point. I mean, fortunately, on this call, we are very fortunate people that we already have, or we are in the association of bona fide spiritual masters. So we don't have a big issue, but a lot of other people, I mean, that's what they struggle with. You know, how do I find a bona fide spiritual master? Anyway, so those are the characteristics. But then what to do with them? It says, I'm just going back to the verse, Tasmat Gurum Prapaddeta, which is surrendering to that kind of a guru, Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. We should make inquiries. But what kind of inquiries? Jigyasu means inquiries, make inquiries. We are curious, inquisitive. But Shreya, what does Shreya mean?
Pleasant, Prabhu?
I'm sorry?
Pleasant? Pleasant
No,
and
not in this
Shreya is
context.
what is good for us in long
Correct.
term.
That's exactly right. What's good for me in long term, which means what's good for my soul, not for my senses, not for my body. And Uttamam means something that's above the darkness, which means transcendental, which means devotional service. So once having found a bona fide guru, we should surrender to him and make inquiries, but not nonsense inquiries, but inquiries about devotional service, inquiries about what's best for my soul, what's good for me in the long run. Okay, so that's the other part of the verse that we just read. Okay, any question? Okay, is it too much detail, by the way?
Prabhuji is required. So we can connect with Bhagavad Gita sloka tadvidi pranipate.
Absolutely.
Same, yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Shantite jnanam tat darshina.
Correct. Yes, we can. Okay, all right. So Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur also gave a commentary on this verse. And he made an additional point. He said, well, it's nice to know that we have to do this. But the fundamental question is, who can do this? Who can only ask about what's good for my soul, what's good for my long-term interest, what's, excuse me, and only ask about devotional service, only talk about transcendental matters. Who can do that? And he says the only person who can do that is the one who has understood the futility, which means the uselessness of material sense gratification. And only that person, when he approaches spiritual master, he will do the right behavior. So the first principle you can say of devotional service is to clearly understand that the material world is a false shelter. So it's not false, it's a false shelter. And to feel that this is an emergency, I have no time left, I have to urgently get into spiritual life. And therefore, to do that, I need the genuine shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. Now, this point has been made in many, many places in Srimad Bhagavatam. One I'm thinking about is Mother Kunti saying, Janmasha Shibhi. So you may have heard that verse. So basically, she's making the same point. If you are too puffed up about our education, high lineage, etc., then we cannot develop feelings for Krishna, and therefore we cannot really serve Krishna. So that's basically the same point being made again. Now, the other thing we have to understand also is that whether we are humans on planet Earth or we are demigods in the heavenly planets, we are all worried about losing our opulence or exhausting them. The demigods in particular worry about exhausting their pious deeds or pious results of their pious deeds. And they know that once that happens, once we exhaust the results of all our pious deeds that got us to the heavenly planet, we'll have to go back to earthly planet. So as soon as we exhaust them, we have to go back. So they become very sad at that thought that now we have to go back to earthly planet. And actually, Lord Krishna recognized that in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, text 21. How does it go? Te tam bhuktva sarkulokam vishalam shune punye martaloke vashanti. Evam tai dharma anuprapanna katagatam kam kama labhanti. He says that as soon as the demigods have exhausted the results of the pious deeds, they have to come down. And so people who keep Tridharmis, they keep studying the Vedas for Karma Kanda, they keep going up and down. One day they're human, one day they're demigod, one day they're animal, and just keep going. And so demigods are actually very envious of each other. And we know many stories about Indra. And they're afraid of being attacked by demons. So there's no real happiness in heaven. So the point I'm trying to make here that may not have been very obvious is that instead of asking, what are the qualifications of a guru, a bona fide guru, the real question we should have in our mind, not that that question is not valid, but the real question we should have in our mind is, what's the qualification or what are the qualifications of a disciple? Right? I mean, it's great to focus on somebody else, but we got to focus on ourselves. Do we deserve to become a disciple? Right? A few weeks ago, we talked about the principle of Haribol, please mute yourself. A few weeks ago, we talked about the principle of deserve before you desire. So similarly, deserve to become a disciple before we desire a guru. So let's focus on ourselves first. And again, it goes back to the point of the questions that we should ask. So what's good for my soul? What's good for me in the long term? So Shreya versus Preya, which means what's good for my senses. Okay, I can give an example because the struggle between wanting Shreya versus Preya is a constant struggle in our life. An example that I can think of is you're studying for an exam. You're a student studying for an exam. It's tomorrow and lots of work to do. And another friend comes up and says, hey, let's go to a movie. I'll buy you a ticket. And now we've got a real struggle. Should I go watch the movie or should I go for the exam? And different people will make a different choice. And most people may succumb to the temptation of going to the movie because, as Prahlad Maharaj said, Date vidu swat gate mi Vishnu. So those students who are not very aware of the consequences of not studying hard, not getting good marks, they give in. So similarly, most people don't know that their interest lies in serving Lord Krishna. Date vidu swat gate mi Vishnu. They just don't know that their real self-interest lies in the serving of Krishna. Therefore, they consider material things to be as extremely valuable as devotional service. So, Durashyate Bahirtha Manina. They don't understand. So their intentions, their goals become very different. They're all external. And so when they go looking for a guru, they look for a guru that'll help them, give them the material things or satisfy their material desires, prayer. So Prahlad Maharaj goes on to say, Andha jatha andhaya rupa niyamana. So blind man is who doesn't know the reality, who doesn't know the truth, which means a non-devotee. So a non-devotee looks for a non-devotee guru. They're both blind in terms of spiritual knowledge. So what happens? They both fall in the ditch. And so they all fall down. So that's what's happening with most people, because they're not aware of what's in their best interest. They look for prayer, which means what's good for my senses, what's good for sense gratification, what's good for my body, who cares about the soul. They all end up in the ditch, which means they fall down and they repeat the cycle of birth and death all the time. And therefore, they have long-term misery in their life for a very short-term pleasure. As Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita 5:22, oh my God, what happened? Dukshyonya evte. Yehi sansparsha bhoga. Dukshyonya. All this sensory happiness, material happiness, is simply mother of miseries. And that's what we keep doing. We keep producing more and more mothers for our miseries. So therefore, Rupa Goswami is saying that our mission of life should be to transfer us from the material world, which is full of miseries, to the spiritual world, which is full of complete bliss. So is that clear? Is that point clear? The qualifications of a guru and qualifications of a disciple. Is it clear, or are there any questions?
No, Prabhuji. It's okay.
You sink in?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, then let's keep going. So somebody wants to read the second paragraph on the same page?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Please go ahead.
The purport is that one should not accept as a spiritual master someone who is fool number one, who has no direction according to the spiritual injunctions, whose character is doubtful, who does not follow the principles of devotional service, or who has not conquered the influence of six sense gratification agents. The six agents of sense gratification are the tongue, the genital, the belly, anger, mind, and the words. Anyone who has practiced controlling these six is permitted to make disciples all over the world. To accept such a spiritual master is the crucial point for advancement in spiritual life. One who is fortunate enough to come under the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master is sure to traverse the path of spiritual salvation without any doubt. So here it says, Prabhuji, same thing. Vacho vegam, mansakrodha vegam, jiva vegam, udharapasta vegam, etan vegan jo vishet dhira, sarvam api mam prithvi me shishyate.
Yes, Prabhu. So that's exactly right. That's basically, that verse has been translated here. And again, the point, as I was making earlier, is that if you find a fool for a guru, you fall in the ditch. Find a bona fide guru who knows about the qualifications we discussed a few minutes ago, then you have a chance of finding the path to spiritual world. Okay. Any questions? Okay. All right. So now you found the guru. What to do then? So let's go to the next point. So we just finished point number 1. Let's go point number 2. Who wants to read first paragraph on page 60? Anybody awake?
I can read, Prabhu.
Oh, please, yeah, Grana, go ahead.
Okay. Accepting initiation from a spiritual master and receiving instructions from him. Sage Prabhupada continues to speak to the king as follows. My dear king, a disciple has to accept the spiritual master not only as spiritual master, but also as a representative of Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah, sorry, just pause for a second. So basically what's being said here is that after rejecting material life and taking shelter of a spiritual master, as we discussed in the first point, second step has to be taken, which is accept him as our guru with full faith. So we talk about Diksha, but what is Diksha? Diksha is the formal acceptance by a guru of the disciples' commitment to him and faith in him. Because without this commitment, a disciple cannot possess the faith, the unflinching faith, the unyielding faith that is required to properly assimilate the spiritual instructions of the Guru. So now, let me try to make it a little simpler in language. One of the reasons many disciples don't follow the instructions of their Guru is that they're not committed and they don't really have faith in that Guru. For some reason, they decided to take it because everybody was doing that, or this wanted Diksha, didn't matter from whom, because it's status thing, I'm initiated, you're not initiated kind of thing. They did it, but they got no commitment to the Guru and they got no faith in Guru. So when that happens, then the ability to accept the instructions, and some of them can be very hard, as we know from the example for Arjuna and Lord Krishna during the battle of Kurukshetra, and they don't take it, or they start giving excuses. The Guru says, can you bring bananas? And the disciple says, yeah, tomorrow I can go. But he says, today, he says, okay, let me find somebody to do it for you. And he goes out and then he gets busy with some conversations and he forgets about what Guru wanted. Just a silly example, but I've seen it happen. That just shows that the commitment to the Guru and the faith in Guru's words is just not there. Okay, Nana, go ahead, please. I'm sorry to interrupt.
In other words, the disciple should accept the spiritual master as God because he is the external manifestation of Krishna. This is confirmed in every scripture, and a disciple should accept the spiritual masters as such.
So does it remind you of something? Some prayer we do every morning?
It reminds me of one of the doha I have read when I was little.
Sure.
क्या था वो गुरु गोविंद दो खड़े काके लागे पाओ. I'm not
Balihari
the
Guru
words I
aapne.
know. Ne govind diyo batao.
Right. Yeah, and Nima Mata has just sent the answer by chat.
Guru Ashtaka.
Guru Ashtaka, yeah. Correct. So which slide is it? Sakshat Haritven Samasta Shastra. Right? So basically saying that all the scriptures accept that the Guru is as good as the Lord. Okay, please go ahead. I'm sorry I keep interrupting you, but I just want to make the point.
No problem, Prabhu. Actually, it's nice when we stop. One should learn Srimad Bhagavatam seriously and with all respects, and veneration for the spiritual master. Hearing and speaking Srimad Bhagavatam is the religious process which elevates one from the platform of serving and loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Right. So why is this important? It says one should learn Srimad Bhagavatam seriously and with all respect and veneration for the spiritual master. Everybody understands the word veneration? Like real high level of respect. Almost you're worshipping him. So why is that interest required to learn Bhagavatam?
Because it's the literature form of Krishna.
Yes, so what?
Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then whatever associated with him is as important as him.
Yeah, but I'm looking for a specific answer. So let me put it differently. Can you serve Krishna directly? So how do you serve Krishna? How do you serve Krishna?
Through spiritual master.
Through your spiritual master, same thing. As somebody just said, Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. Therefore, it too cannot be understood without going through the spiritual master, which means if you don't have the respect, the worship mood of the spiritual master, you cannot understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so once again, emphasizing the importance of having a guru, but a bona fide guru. Okay, does it make sense?
Perfect, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. Next paragraph, who would like to read? Well, there are 21, 22 people on the call and nobody wants to volunteer.
No, I can read, Prabhuji.
Please, Madhumataji, go ahead.
The
Make me
attitude
happy.
of the attitude of the disciple should be to satisfy the bona fide spiritual master. Then it will be very easy for him to understand spiritual knowledge. This is confirmed in the Vedas, and the Rupa Goswami will further explain that for a person who has unflinching faith in God and the spiritual master, everything becomes revealed very easily.
Yes, and that's the point that we were just making. So I'm going to share the screen one more time. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so somebody wants to read this verse, Shvetashvatara Upanishad from Shvetashvatara Upanishad.
Yes. Should
Go
I
ahead.
try, Prabhuji?
Please go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Yasya deve para bhakti yatha deve tatha guru tasya ta kahitaha hi arthaha prakasnete mahatmaha.
Good, thank you. So this is the verse that basically was translated in the paragraph that you just read. So we're saying, yes, whose deve para bhakti, who has that a degree of devotion to the Lord. But what kind of just deve tatha guru? But he has the same level of bhakti in his guru. So he does not distinguish between the Lord and the guru. He's worshipping them. He has faith in both of them, the same degree. So it is to that person all the meanings, prakashante means revealed, artha means meaning. So all the meanings of the scriptures are revealed by whom? Mahatmana, the pure devotees or spiritual master. So the spiritual master reveals the secrets of all the scriptures to the person who has the same degree of faith in Guru as he does in the Lord. So once again, emphasizing the point about having the faith in the Guru, which is at the same level as we have in the Lord. Okay? Any questions on that? So once again, the point being, therefore, we must have full faith in the Guru if we wish to understand the scriptures. Without that faith, we will not understand the scriptures. Also, faithfully hearing from the spiritual master, we get elevated to the platform of loving service to the spiritual master. Faithful loving service to the spiritual master. Okay. Understanding the importance of service to the Lord and knowing the spiritual master to be non-different from the Lord, the disciple must serve the spiritual master with a very strong faith. I mean, to the degree that, as my mother used to say, if he says jump in the well, you jump in the well. You don't ask why. Or in the military, there's a saying, when the captain says jump, you don't ask why. You just ask how high. And same thing with the Guru. Same thing with the Guru. It doesn't matter what the instruction is, you follow. Arjun followed the instruction of Krishna when he said, shoot the arrows at Bhishma Pitama, who was not fighting back. He shot the arrow when Lord Krishna said, cut the head of Karna when he was not fighting back. Because that was the Guru's instruction. So we're talking about that level of faith. And if we have that, all the secrets of all the scriptures and the secrets of Krishna will be revealed to us. People say, how do I know what Krishna wants? Well, you know it when the Guru reveals it to you, and he reveals it to you when you show that degree of commitment and faith. Okay. Which is basically the next point in this paragraph we'll talk about. So would somebody like to read the third paragraph on page 60?
May I,
Please do, of course.
Serving the spiritual master with the faith and confidence regarding serving the spiritual master in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 17th chapter, verse 27, it is stated by Lord Krishna, my dear Uddhava, the spiritual master must be accepted not only as my representative, but as my very self. He must never be considered on the same level with an ordinary human being. One should never be envious of the spiritual master as one may be envious of an ordinary man. The spiritual master should always be seen as the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by serving the spiritual master, one is able to serve all the demigods.
Yeah. So again, Krishna uses some very, very strong words to emphasize this point. He says, not only the spiritual master is my representative, but it's not different from me. And that we should never consider the guru to be an ordinary human being. That's a big offense. We should never treat our guru as an ordinary human being. They're not ordinary people. And we can see some of the spiritual masters in our own movement, ISKCON, what they're able to accomplish, what they do, what austerities they're able to perform, and what knowledge they have, what bhakti they have, what services they do. No ordinary person can do. What Srila Prabhupada did in terms of writing so many books, traveling at the same time so much, collecting funds for temples, and trying to keep discipline among his disciples. No ordinary man can do that. I mean, imagine sleeping only 2 hours a day every day. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, same thing. 2 hours a day every day. No ordinary person can do that. So we should never think our guru is an ordinary human being. And obviously, if you can't even think that, then we should never be envious of our spiritual master, which is basically, it'll take you down so fast if we become envious of our guru. And again, if we serve the spiritual master, Krishna is served automatically. When Krishna is served automatically, all the demigods are automatically worshipped. So another definition of Shraddha is Shraddha Sabde Vishwas, Sudra Nischay, Krishna Bhakti Kaile, Sarva Karma Kritva. If we perform devotional service to Krishna, everything is taken care of. Everything, including service to the demigods, aligning of the planets, you name it. Everything's taken care of. Okay, any questions? Okay.
The last word there, last line, right? The spiritual master is one able to, that means, and by serving the spiritual master, one is able to serve all the demigods. So why that word, all the demigods? I'm little intrigued.
Sorry, say again, what's the question?
The last word is that to serve all the demigods. By serving the spiritual master, one is able to serve all the demigods.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the question?
So,
Sorry.
My question is why it's talking about demigod. The spiritual master, we don't look into that category. We're talking about Lord Krishna.
Oh, so yeah, you're right. So you're right. But basically the point being made is that a lot of people still believe in demigods. They still want to serve the demigods. And he's saying is don't worry about it. You surrender to a bona fide spiritual master who's serving Lord Krishna. Everything is taken care of. So don't worry about, oh, how do I leave the service of Lord Shiva? How do I leave the service of Durga? Because that's what I've done all my life. No, you still meet people who say things like that. So just assuring them, don't worry, it'll all get taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other question? Okay. And who'd like to read the third paragraph of page 60, which is following in the footsteps of saintly person? Do we have a volunteer?
Did I do it, Prabhuji?
Have you done that already?
Yes, I have done, but
No. So let's insist that somebody else do it. So I would like one of the other 20 people to please volunteer. Don't be shy.
Who have not read.
Who was not read? Yes. Should I start naming people? I mean, what do I have to do?
Sorry, Prabhu, I don't have a book. I'm out. I'm sorry, Prabhu.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I understand.
Sorry, Prabhu. Same here, Prabhuji.
Sonam, go ahead. Yes.
No, I was saying same here. I'm also out.
You don't have a book?
I'm not home, Prabhuji.
Oh, you're on the phone. Okay. Anybody else?
I can read. Sorry, Dad, what's the paragraph again? Sorry.
This is on page 60.
Yep.
The last paragraph, following in the footsteps of saintly persons.
Okay. Following in the footsteps of saintly persons. In the Skanda Purana, it is advised that a devotee follow the past acharyas and saintly persons, because by such following, one can achieve the desired results with no chance of lamenting or being baffled in his progress.
Right. So basically the point being made, I'm sorry. The point being made is that not only should we follow our own spiritual master, but we should follow all bona fide sadhus and acharyas in the line of disciplic succession. That's the important point. Not just anybody, but all the acharyas, all the bona fide sadhus who are in the line of disciplic succession, which includes the god brothers of our guru. So therefore, there should be no dissension between our guru's teachings and the teachings of Guru Parampara, and also any god brother who's in the Parampara should be teaching the same thing, because the qualification of the bona fide guru is that he represents the scriptures strictly according to the Parampara. Right? If a guru is not adhering to the Parampara, Guru Parampara, then serving him is not devotional service. That guru should actually be rejected if he gets outside of the Parampara. Okay, does that make sense? So the second point being made here is in the construction, the word is used sato vritte, which means following the footsteps of a spiritual master. And in Bhagavatam, the verse is Mahajana Jaina Gata Sapanta. So whatever path the great devotees have taken, that's the path we take, because that's how we know this is the right path. And I think somebody asked a very interesting question. Suppose you have to go somewhere, ask somebody for directions. The person says, if you go that path, everybody takes that path. But this is a shortcut. You can take that, but not sure how that ends up because nobody has taken it. So which path will you take? Just in general.
The one which is everyone taking.
Yeah, which everyone taking, because they'll get to your destination. The same thing. Mahajana Jain Gata Sapanta. We follow the path of the pure devotees. Okay. So somebody will read the next paragraph. The last line on that page.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, please, I beg you.
The last paragraph. The scripture known as Brahma Yamana states as follows. If someone wants to pose himself as a great devotee without following the authorities of the revealed scriptures, then his activities will never help him to make progress in devotional service. Instead, he will simply create disturbances for the sincere students of devotional service. Those who do not strictly follow the principles of revealed scriptures are generally called sahajiyas. Those who have imagined everything to be cheap, who have their own concocted ideas, and who do not follow the scriptural injunctions. Such persons are simply creating disturbances in the discharge of devotional service.
Yes. So main point again being made is that if somebody is not following the path of the Mahajans, the pure devotees, then they cannot make progress in the devotional service. But not just that, they actually cause disturbance for those who actually want to progress on the path of devotional service. Those people who don't strictly follow the principles of scriptures, they're known as sahajiyas. And we all know how Prabhupada felt about the sahajiyas. They just cheapen everything. They have their own concocted ideas and they make up their own theories and they take everybody to hell with them. So basically the siddhantas, the philosophy, the real philosophy has to be followed, not made up was. And I was told about a devotee. He went to a place where somebody was giving a class on Bhagavatam, and it was that everyone in the audience is crying. Everyone in the audience was crying. So he said, what's going on? So he asked somebody, like, is this class so good that everybody's crying? And the person told him that, no. This is the class for learning how to cry for Krishna. That is bogus. That's bogus. You cannot be told how to cry for Krishna. It has to come from the heart. So this is called what you call apasiddhant, which means not according to the real philosophy. It's sentimental. It's not. Sentiments are not same as prema or bhava. So we have to be very careful. And there's actually another verse from actually Nectar of Devotion, later on, one of the later chapters. It says, Shruti Smriti Puranadi, Pancharatri Vidhambina, Aikantiki Harer Bhakti, Utpat Ev Kalpate. Which basically means if we don't faithfully adhere to the rules of scriptures, where the Shruti means Vedas, Smriti means Puranas, Pancharatra is the process for devotional service. If you don't follow those books, the rules in those books, the injunctions in those books, then the devotional service that we do, which is whimsical, simply becomes a disturbance to the society. And therefore, we must follow in the footsteps of devotees who are strictly faithful to the Guru Parampara. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, so next paragraph, which is paragraph 1.61, illustrates this point using Lord Buddha as an example. Even though Buddha is an expansion of Lord Krishna.
Prabhuji, sorry to interrupt you. I have a question.
Go ahead, beta.
Prabhuji, Abhi, you were talking about Apasiddhanta and Sahajya. So my question is, when we see people, when we see or meet people like this, what should be our, how should we treat them?
Well,
because we know what they're doing is Apasiddhanta. So is it wisdom to discuss this with them, or shall we just pranam dur se?
So actually, I don't know why, but you reminded me of a story.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I was just trying to collect my thoughts. Once in a forest, a donkey and a tiger, they got in an argument. The donkey was saying the grass is blue. Hariko, sorry, can you hear me? Ashok Prabhu, are you there? I'm just going to mute everyone and see if I can keep them muted. Okay. So again, my request is, if you're not asking a question, you can keep yourself on mute, please. I'd appreciate that. Anyway, so the donkey and the tiger got into an argument. Donkey was saying the grass is blue. And the tiger said, you're such a donkey, grass is not blue. Everybody can see it's green. They got into a huge argument about that. Donkey was insisting it's blue and tiger was insisting it's green. So tiger said, let's go to the king, the lion, and ask him to give his judgment. So they both went. And the donkey said, sir, the grass is blue. Tiger said, he's such a fool, tiger, grass is green. So we are here to hear your judgment. What do you say? And the lion said, the grass is blue. And tiger, you're so stupid. I'm going to give you punishment for 3 months that you cannot come back to this forest. When the donkey heard that, he was dancing and he just went away very, very happy. When the donkey left, tiger turned around to the lion and said, my dear king, I don't get it. You know it, grass is green. I know grass is green. Everybody else knows grass is green. So why would you agree with the donkey? And the lion king said, because the donkey is a fool. He'll never understand the facts. So why are you wasting your time with him? Don't waste your time. Just walk away. Let him win. Let him win the argument. Then the tiger said, well, why did you punish me? When you know I'm right. And the lion said, I punished you for wasting my time bringing the donkey here to argue his case. So the reason I tell you this story is that when you run to these sahajiyas, don't argue, don't discuss, do your respectful obeisances with your namaste, pranam, whatever, and just keep walking.
The story was very good, Prabhuji.
Thank you. So, yeah, don't waste your time.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
You're welcome. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, all right. So then in the next paragraph, we're going to talk about Lord Buddha. And as I was saying that even though Lord Buddha is an expansion of Krishna, his followers don't practice pure devotional services. Why? Because for circumstantial reasons, Buddha did not strictly present the scriptures according to Guru Parampara. He basically tried to denied the existence of the Vedas and the validity and authenticity of the Vedas. So let's read this paragraph, next paragraph. Somebody new, I hope, can volunteer.
I can read, Prabhu.
Please go ahead.
If I get your permission.
I don't know, no permission required. Please go ahead.
In this connection, right, Prabhu?
Yes.
In this connection, an objection may be raised by those who are not in devotional service and who do not care for the revealed scriptures. An example of this is seen in Buddhist philosophy. Lord Buddha appeared in the family of a high-grade Kshatriya king, but his philosophy was not in accord with the Vedic conclusions and therefore was rejected. Under the patronage of a Hindu king, Maharaja Ashoka, the Buddhist religion was spread all over India and the adjoining countries. However, after the appearance of the great stalwart teacher Shankaracharya, this Buddhism was driven out beyond the borders of India.
Correct.
Should I continue, Prabhu?
Yes, please do.
The Buddhists or other religionists who do not care for revealed scriptures sometimes say that there are many devotees of Lord Buddha who show devotional service to Lord Buddha and who therefore should be considered devotees. In answer to this argument, Rupa Goswami says that the followers of Buddha cannot be accepted as devotees. Although Lord Buddha is accepted as an incarnation of Krishna, the followers of such incarnations are not very advanced in their knowledge of the Vedas. To study the Vedas means to come to the conclusion of the supremacy of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, any religious principle which denies the supremacy of the personality of Godhead is not accepted and is called atheism. Atheism means defying the authority of the Vedas and decrying the great acharyas who teach Vedic scriptures for the benefit of the people in general.
Great, thank you. So, sorry, I just want to make some points. So the major points being made in these two paragraphs are, first, who is a devotee? And it's clear that a devotee is one who serves Lord Krishna or his Vishnu Tattva expansions and accepts the authority of the Vedas, which conclude that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Vedasya sarvam ahamev vedya. The purpose of studying the Vedas is to know me, to understand me. So if the Vedic conclusion, your conclusion of the Vedas is not taking you to that conclusion, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then you're not reading it right and you are an atheist. Or if you defy the authority of the Vedas, you are atheist. So on the surface, you could say, well, Buddha is expression of Krishna, therefore his devotees are devotees. But no, they are not accepting the authority of the Vedas. They're not accepting the Vedic conclusions. And therefore, they don't accept the authority of Krishna. Therefore, they cannot be considered devotees by the definition we give. The same thing with Jain Dharma. They don't believe in God. So therefore, their religion is not based on the Vedas, and we don't consider them devotees. Even if Krishna said something, by the way, against the scriptures, we won't accept. So do we have any example of Krishna saying something against the conclusion of the Vedas? Anyone? Those of us who were in the Wednesday class should remember.
Karma Mimamsa, he was
Yes,
talking
Prabhu.
about
Yes, Prabhu. When Lord Krishna was convincing Nanda Maharaj
Nanda.
that he doesn't have to worry about it because we do good karma, the demigods are forced to give the results. That is Karma Mimamsa philosophy. That's not accepted by our Vyasdev, who's the authority or compiler of the Vedas. Anyway, the point is that it doesn't matter who it is that's denying the authority of the Vedas or concluding things that are not consistent with the conclusion of the Vedas is not considered devotee. Okay, so let's move on to the next paragraph. Do we have?
Prabhuji?
Go ahead.
Lord Buddha is accepted as an incarnation of Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but in the same Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that Lord Buddha appeared in the order to bewilder the atheist class of man. Therefore, his philosophy is meant for bewildering the atheist and should not be accepted. If someone asks, why should Krishna propagate atheistic principle? The answer is that it is for the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to end the violence which was then being committed by the name of the Vedas. The so-called religious were falsely used the Vedas to justify such violence acts as meat eating, and Lord Buddha came to lead the fallen people away from such a false interpretation of the Vedas. Also, for the atheist, Lord Buddha preached atheism so that they would follow him and thus be picked in the devotional service to Lord Buddha or Krishna.
Right. So basically, Krishna's philosophy is yena kena prakarena. Like somehow or the other, get people to become a devotee. Somehow or the other, Krishna wants to bring everybody back home. So if that means he has to come back as Buddha and deny the authenticity of Vedas, so people will stop committing violence against the animals, then so be it, he'll do that. But at least then the probability of them becoming devotees increased as opposed to always remaining, so violent and still being atheistic at the same time. Okay, any questions before we move to the next point, which is on page 62? Okay, so who would like to read?
I would like to read, Prabhuji.
Okay, there's only one line. Go ahead.
Oh, can I continue after that too?
Yeah, sure. After
I
I
missed the
explain,
part.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, inquiring about eternal religious principles. In the Naradiya Purana, it is said, if one is actually very serious about devotional service, then all of his purposes will be served without any delay.
Yeah, so it's back to the verse that I had quoted earlier. Shraddha Sabde Vishwas Eish Sudhara Nischay Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krit Hoy. If real faith means that we should have real faith that if we serve Krishna, everything will get taken care of. We don't have to worry about all our purposes will be solved. So what is the ultimate goal of human life?
Love of Godhead.
I'm sorry?
Love of Godhead. Krishna,
Love of Godhead.
Krishna
To get there, we have to ask questions. And this is why you will see that all our scriptures are based on question answers, whether it's Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, somebody's asking questions and somebody's answering it. In Bhagavatam, actually, there's a lot of people who are asking questions and a lot of different people answering the questions. But it starts with Atato Brahma Jigyasa, right? So we have to make inquiries to achieve the love of God, which is the ultimate goal of human life. But we should learn how to make an inquiry, right? One way is simply make note of the question that arises during our study of the scripture and put these questions before a senior Vaishnava in a very humble way. Back to Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. We should inquire about what's good and about devotional service. But we don't ask a question for the sake of asking or arguing. Some people you can tell when they ask the question that they're testing your knowledge. Some people you can tell they're not interested in the answer because they move to the next question before you answer the first one. Some people are not interested, you can tell because they're looking here and there, not listening to what you're saying, but they ask the question. That is not the way to progress on the path of devotional service. It would be like, how did they say it? Sowing seeds in a ground that's not fertile. It'll never give results. Similarly, pride, envy, etc. will make our heart infertile, and the love of Krishna will never grow in that. So we must learn how to serve a pure devotee. And how do we do that? By associating with them, by hearing from them, and inquiring from them. Pariprashna and Parisevya, right? And by rendering physical service, physical acts of service. So those are two ways. So massage his lotus feet, bring him bath water or whatever he asks you to do physically, go bring me this or go bring me that, or wash his clothes. Like one of the services that many of us fight for when Guru Maharaj comes, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami, to wash his clothes. And it's a real battle. Who will take it today? Who will take it tomorrow? So that's the word serve. It's a physical act of service. So we hear from, inquire from, hear submissively from, inquire submissively from, and get physical association and oral association. And by serving through some physical act of service. And that's the way to make progress. Okay, all right. Next one.
Dad, can I ask a question?
Of course you can, yes.
So this has been like a real big topic of conversation here in New York lately because Radhanath Maharaj was just here and he's coming back in the summer and he's got so many wonderful disciples here. But of course, Radhanath Maharaj is so sought after and so many of his disciples don't actually get that opportunity for physical service. And so we all understand this concept that, like, of course, Vani is higher than Vapu. But the question arises is, number one, is it an anartha to crave some physical service? So like, for example, like I would love to just wash his dhoti, or I would love to, not me personally, I'm just saying, people might say this. And then also similarly, like the desire to just feel acknowledged and seen by the gurus. So, for some gurus like Radhanath Maharaj, it's not always possible because they have tens of thousands of disciples. And so the question is, in Krishna's pastimes, there are so many examples that Krishna made everybody feel like they were just looking at me. And, in the Ras Leela, during the lunch with the cowherd boys. So the question is that like a genuine desire of the soul, or is that an anartha that we should try to root out to want to feel seen by the guru?
Yeah, very good question, Radha. So it all depends upon the intention and the motivation for that desire. If the desire is that by doing this physical act of service, I'll be better than others, or I'll get more recognition in the eyes of this particular person or devotee, or some other prestige gain, then that's not the right way to do it. And that is an anartha. Because basically you'll end up with pride, or if you don't get it, you'll end up with envy. However, if the desire is genuine, sincere desire to serve a devotee, then that's perfectly all right. Actually, it's a very good thing. Now, we don't need to get into the specific example of His Holiness Radha Swami, but I think many gurus have that situation because wherever they go, they have many disciples. And a lot of times, this is also the wrong thing to do, some of the senior devotees, or disciples, I should say, will monopolize the service or all services and not allow the more junior disciples to get any service. That's also not right. So therefore, the mood should be, the mood should be to allow as many disciples and devotees, if that's practical, to do that physical act of service, because there is some satisfaction in doing that, sometimes because of our immaturity, which is not wrong. We are immature because we haven't gotten to that point. And therefore, an immature but sincere desire to serve is there. And then we feel bad if we're not able to get that service, which is also fine, as long as, again, the desire was, I really wanted to serve him, not that I wanted to get the prestige or the name and fame for telling people, look, I did this and I did that. So I think it all boils down to the intent and the sincerity of the desire. And if the intent is right, sincerity is there, that's perfectly all right. Nothing wrong with that.
If I just ask a quick follow-up on that.
Please go. Yeah, of course.
So sorry, I realized my video's off. So if he is left feeling a little bereft of the association of the guru, and it, because we always try to understand the higher philosophy that Vani is better than Vapu, and the connection between the disciple and the guru is in the heart. But when we do associate on the physical plane, that connection can be hard to feel for some people. So can I just ask you, like, how would you advise somebody who says that to you? Like, is it like acknowledging, like, it's okay, it's a normal human need? Like, what would you say to someone who said, like, I don't feel like he's really seeing me, and that intention is not for prestige, it's just a desire to feel connected to and seen by the guru?
Yeah, again, very good question. So first thing I will explain to this person is that the guru does notice everyone. The guru does know what you're thinking, what your concerns, your questions, what your frustrations, your lamentations, they all are. The guru does know. And I can give examples from my personal experience with my spiritual master, but I can also share at least one experience with Srila Prabhupada that a devotee had. And this devotee, and I don't remember his name, was very sincere, hardworking devotee who stayed in the kitchen to make prasadam for bhoga, of course, but then prasadam for Srila Prabhupada, while everybody else was jostling to get as close to Srila Prabhupada as possible so he can be seen with Srila Prabhupada. They'll ask questions, even though they're not sincere questions, so they can be seen to be having conversation with Srila Prabhupada and get great satisfaction from, oh, I've spoke to Srila Prabhupada. He spoke back to me. So one time Prabhupada went to this city where this devotee was there, and all these people were doing the same thing. And he kept walking. He didn't know this devotee. He had never met this devotee. Although he had initiated him through a letter, but he had never met him. And he went straight to the kitchen. And he spent 30 minutes talking to this devotee. And he came back and resumed his program. Why? Because this devotee was genuinely feeling that, look, I don't get the time to spend with my spiritual master. But to me, satisfying him through my service is more important. So I'll stay in the kitchen. But Prabhupada knew. So same thing. We may think so, but we cannot show off or fool our spiritual master. That's part of having faith. He's not an ordinary person. He knows. And I can tell you story after story about my personal experience with my Guru Maharaj, where he knows. He knows what question to ask, and he asks only things that I'm struggling with. He doesn't ask me for anything else. And it's not just with me. Many of my God brothers have told me same stories, similar stories. So I'll tell this person, do not worry. If your desire is sincere, if your service is sincere, if your feelings for your guru are sincere, you have that faith, guru knows. You don't have to worry about it. And tell him this story, this particular story. I really like the story because it just shows that, yeah, guru knows. So main point is that you have the connection with your guru through heart, not through some physical thing. It's not a physical connection. It's a spiritual connection. He's a spiritual father, not biological father. He's our spiritual friend and well-wisher, not a material well-wisher, material friend. So on and so forth. Therefore, he knows. And I don't think the person has to worry.
Thank you. I know that there were also some other stories of like Prabhupada disciples who, Jayananda Prabhu, for example, everybody was, I think, maybe at Bhagavatam class or something, and he asked, where is Jayananda? And everybody said, oh, he's still working on the Rath. And Prabhupada said, well, he's understood. he's understood my books better than everybody here.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anybody else? Any questions? Okay, all right, then I'll keep going. Okay, so
Prabhuji, can I ask you one question, please?
of course you can. No, please
Okay.
go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Okay, why are you convinced to follow the orders of the spiritual master in this life?
Sorry, Mother, can you start again? I couldn't hear the first part.
Okay, the question is, why are you convinced to follow the orders of the spiritual master in this life and even in life after? So what does that mean?
So that's a question from one of the GBC questionnaires for.
Yes, it is.
Yes, so the question, if I just repeat it for everybody else, is that why should we follow or must we follow instructions of our spiritual master, not just in this life, but life after life? And the reason is that, as I was saying to Radha Bhakti just a minute ago, that our connection with our spiritual master is not at a physical level, not at a material level. Therefore, it's an eternal connection. So life after life after life, we will have the same guru, unless we become a rascal. Prabhupada said, well, I'm not going to come back for you if you just remain a rascal. But if you remain sincere, you follow my instructions, you serve me sincerely, I will come back for you. So same thing. The guru will come back for us if we are sincere devotees, if we follow his instructions sincerely. And then he gives instruction, we follow it life after life after life until he said, okay, now you're ready to come back home with me. And Prabhupada used to say, I'll take you through the back door, don't worry. But the implication was that you remain sincere and you serve. So that's basically what it means, Mother.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Did that make sense, Nima Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji, because I have to answer some questions for GPC from Dipchaka Maharaj.
If you have difficulties with that, you can call me later.
Okay, thank you.
And I can help you with those questions.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
No problem. Anyone else? Okay, all right. So who wants to read the next part? Being prepared to give up everything.
Can I continue, Prabhuji?
Okay, go ahead, yeah.
Being prepared to give up everything material for Krishna's satisfaction. In a Padma Purana, it is stated, for one who has given up his material sense enjoyment and has accepted the principles of devotional service, the opulence of Vishnu Loka, the kingdom of God, is awaiting.
So now the question is the opulence of Vishnu Loka permanent or impermanent?
It's permanent.
Permanent.
Is it limited or unlimited?
Unlimited.
Right. So here's our choice. Do we want the material opulence, which is temporary and limited? Or do we want permanent opulence? Sorry, Vishnu Loka opulence, which is permanent and unlimited.
Permanent and unlimited.
Right. So we have to prepare ourselves for that. So in other words, we have to be prepared to give up what's material for Krishna's satisfaction, because that's what will give us what's permanent and unlimited. Right? So it's like, sometimes devotees say, oh, I had to give up watching TVs, I have to give up going to the clubs. But what are they getting in return? And that's what they have to weigh one against the other. They want a great time for 2 hours, or they want a great time for the rest of their eternity. And that's basically the question. So therefore, the conclusion is that for Krishna, we should be prepared to give up all kinds of enjoyment for service, for the pleasure of Krishna. Okay, all right, let's go to the next one. Residing in a sacred place.
Guruji, I have a question actually in relation to the previous discussion that we were having with gurus. So you said the relationship with our guru is eternal. So why does it take sometimes, for people to find a guru and the right, why does it take so long sometimes? If we have that eternal relationship, so why sometimes people get diksha or, find their guru at the age of 40 or 50, and why does it take so long? What is stopping it? Why And then if the bhakti is eternal too, like it's the continuation of our previous lives, right? Whatever bhakti we have had in the previous life, we are just carrying that forward. And still, sometimes, you don't have any devotional service until 30 or 40 once why are you not born in I don't know, maybe you've answered this so many times and you're smiling.
That's a great question. I'm smiling was a great question.
I'm curious. I don't know why it takes so long.
Well, the answer is very simple. It takes so long because we don't want to move. And it's like, yes, bhakti is eternal, but sometimes we say we lost the bhakti. Like we do the offense and bhakti is gone. But if it's gone, then how can it be eternal? Anything eternal cannot be gone. We cannot lose something that's eternal. Right? So why do we say that? What does it mean that we lost bhakti or because of offense the bhakti is gone? Why do we say that?
Maybe we committed any offense against a Vaishnava.
No, I know that. But my point is, it
Why?
cannot be eternal and be lost for any reason at the same time. If there are certain things that will make it go away, then it's not eternal.
Mm-hmm.
So how does an eternal thing get lost? Right? So the answer is, it's like your car keys or your glasses.
Mm-hmm.
You put them somewhere, you forget where you put it. Now, until you find it, it's lost. But it's not lost that it's not gone. It's not gone, but it's lost because you can't find it.
Well, it's such a basic, I know, fundamental. Oh my God, yes. The first thing that...
So that's what it is. For many, many reasons, we lose our bhakti. Another reason is basically we improperly use our free will. We give in to the temptations of Maya, and then we lose it, the desire to serve Krishna. So once again, it's not lost. It's not lost in the sense that it's eternal, but it's lost in the sense you can't find it.
No. Yeah, now I'm understanding. It just
Okay.
came back. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So let's go on then.
Should I continue?
Please go ahead.
Residing in a sacred place. In the Skanda Purana, it is also said that for a person who has lived in Dwarka for 6 months, for 1 month, or even for 1 fortnight, there is awaiting elevation to the Vaikuntha Lokas and all the prophets of Sarupya Mukti, the privilege of having the same 4-handed bodily features as Narayan.
Right. So I want to say something that might sound like I'm contradicting, but I think you should know better than I'll never do that. So let me say this and I'll explain why I'm saying this. The real benefit of residing in the Dham is to become Krishna conscious. Yeah. And Dham also is a state of consciousness. So you can be in Toronto, but you can be in Vrindavan. If your consciousness is Vrindavan consciousness. You can be in Toronto or Vancouver or Edmonton or wherever, and your consciousness could be Dwarka or Mayapur consciousness, because state of mind, state of consciousness. However, it is possible that we go to physical Dham, whether it's Vrindavan, Mayapur, wherever, and perform some offenses. And we'll talk about that in a second. Then it's not, actually it's more harmful to reside in the Dham than not residing there. Mm-hmm. Similarly, for a pure devotee, it doesn't really matter whether you leave your body in Kolkata or in Vrindavan. So for example, Srila Prabhupada left his body in Vrindavan. But where did his guru, Srila Bhakti Saraswati Maharaj, leave his body? Anybody knows? Kolkata. Right? So he didn't go to Vrindavan, he didn't enter Mayapur. Why? Because Kolkata was Mayapur for him, that is state of consciousness. So the point is that for a pure devotee, it doesn't really matter what physical dham he leaves his body, because his consciousness dham is Vrindavan, Mayapur, wherever. Right? On the other hand, for people like me, we could physically reside in Vrindavan, but do so many offenses that's not same as residing in the Dham. So my point is basically that we talk about residing in a sacred place, we're talking about residing in a Dham as far as the consciousness is concerned. Physical will help, but not necessarily. Okay, is that point clear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. All right, then let's move on.
In the Brahma Purana, it is said the transcendental significance of Purushottam Kshetra, which is the 80 square mile field of Lord Jagannath, cannot be properly described. Even the demigods from higher planetary systems see the inhabitants of this Jagannath Puri as having exactly the same bodily features possessed by one in Vaikuntha. That is, the demigods see the inhabitants of Jagannath Puri as being four-handed.
Now that's very interesting. How many of us have been to Jagannath Puri? Okay, so I see a few hands. Okay, so did you see everybody in 400 form? How many 400 people did you see?
No, we didn't see.
You didn't see any?
Even Lord has two arms there.
We don't have that vision, Prabhuji, maybe.
Well, that's the point. So the point being made is that the residents of these dhams are very special people. Just because we don't have the vision doesn't mean they're not very special people. So we have to be very careful when we deal with them. I know personally I've gotten angry with people in Vrindavan because they frustrate me like anything. Non-humans also, the monkeys, they come twice at least. I've had my very expensive glasses taken away by monkeys. You know, and not only is the monetary loss, but also for that time, I'm not blind, but I cannot see very well. You know, and then I get very frustrated, and I'm happy to yell at the monkey. You know, but hey, they're the residents of Vrindavan. You know, we have to be very careful.
Yeah.
After this birth, they'll probably will go back to garden.
Yes.
So the state of consciousness should be that no, these are very special people. Okay, Nima Mataji, yes. So point being made is that our state of consciousness should be the Dham consciousness. It's not enough just to be in the physical. And also, we should remember always that a first done in a Dham is magnified 1,000 times than performed somewhere else. So actually, when people tell me that they want to go and live in Vrindavan Dham, I tell them not to do that unless they're really ready.
Yeah.
You're better off in Toronto or Vancouver or wherever, try to develop the consciousness of the Dham rather than going to the Dham to live there permanently, but in an immature way. Glasses and phone raise. Sorry, Sonam, I didn't understand the comment. So you have to speak and explain it. Okay, all right.
Sorry, Prabhuji, when I did the raise hand emoji, typed raise, but I only meant that for me it was glasses as well as phone.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So I haven't lost my phone yet, touch wood. Maybe that'll be the next time. But it's unbelievable. Okay, all right. Let's 9:30 already. Okay, so we have 4 more pages. So maybe we should stop here and I can continue the next week. So are there any questions or comments before we leave the class today?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Prabhuji, like, what is the ultimate destination of the followers of Buddhism or Jainism? Like, what is their ultimate destination?
Yeah, so essentially they're atheists, and the destination of atheists is come back to the material world and stay in the cycle of repeat birth and death. Now, those who are sincere followers of Lord Buddha, they get an opportunity to become a devotee in the next birth. And then they start their cycle of devotional service. And then hopefully, depending upon when they get their perfection, they come back to Godhead. But as long as they're atheists, not accepting the authority of the Vedas or the authority of Lord Krishna, they have no spiritual destination.
Although they are very austere, like so
they don't go to hell. But they keep coming back, and in different ways. They could come back as a tapasvi, they could come back as a philanthropist, they could come back as a person in the mode of goodness. All those things can happen. But the point is, until you become a devotee, there's no spiritual destination for you. Okay.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you.
You're welcome.
Prabhuji, does Lord Buddha not have a dham of his own? Like we have, so Ram Bhaktas go to Lord Ram and like that?
So he's a Shakti Avatar.
Oh, okay.
Right? Shakti Avatars don't have dham.
Don't have dham. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure. Anyone else?
So Prabhuji, one question here. When we talk about dhams, right? I know like we should not live in Vrindavan for a long time. I think Prabhupada said we should live there for 3 days or something like that.
He did.
And,
he said, yeah, absolutely he did.
And then there was another thing about Radha Kund. Radha Kund is not a dham, but it's a holiest place, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. And I think which book we were studying then, we had a Nectar Instruction, with a very long discussion on residing at Radha Kund. And basically the conclusion was, unless you're pure devotee, don't reside there. I mean, these things, we become, we make it like a fashion. We make it a point of ability to boast that I live there, or I live there, and I do this and I do that. It's not the best thing. The sincerity of our intentions, the purity of intentions are very important. It's like Prabhupada was explained. Somebody asked Prabhupada, you say that a moment's association with a pure devotee will take us back home to Godhead. So we are associating with you, you're pure devotee, so are you going back home to Godhead? And Prabhupada actually looked at him and said, if you go to hospital, you'll get cured. But just by going there, do you get cured? Or do you have to get admitted? You have to follow the instructions, you have to take the medicine, you have to follow their process, and then you become cured. So same thing. Associating with a pure devotee is the beginning, but you got to follow all the processes. Process of devotional service, that is. You have to follow the rules and regulations and slowly make progress. So sometimes we misunderstand the words like, associate with pure devotee will get you there, take Krishna's name once, you'll get there. All that is correct, but not the way we interpret it. Okay.
Prabhuji, can I ask one last question?
That's okay. You can ask as many as you like.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, in the middle of the class, I think you said this line about the initiation and bona fide spiritual master, that you should first deserve and then desire. So my question is, there are different categories of students, right? So if somebody is at the bottom level and feels ki to become deserving also I need help. So can they desire for the spiritual master to accept them so that then they could become deserving? Can we reverse the cycle in that case?
Well, so remember, there are minimum requirements, right? So we say you must be chanting 16 rounds at least for 1 year. You must be following the regulatory principles at least for 1 year. You must be reading Srila Prabhupada books at least for 6 months to a year. You must be doing some service in the temple. So we do make some qualification criteria. And if you don't meet that, then you don't deserve. So those are the parts of deserving to take shelter. We're not talking initiation yet. Now you deserve to take shelter.
So Prabhuji, say if somebody is chanting, but the person knows that it's the level of chanting, right? The quality of chanting is not that good, but that person needs help, right? The blessings and the grace of Guru to improve. So in that case,
well, so we don't make quality of the chanting as a criteria, because let's be honest. Not many of us have good quality of chanting. I know I don't. and I somehow managed to get a second initiation. So if I had gone by the quality of chanting, I would still not be initiated. And to be honest with you, I think 99% of the initiated devotees will not be initiated if quality of chanting was a criteria. So there's some practical criteria applied to these things. Also, it needs to be measurable. Like how do you measure the quality of chanting of somebody else? Right? I've seen some people who look like they're real samadhi, but they're really samadhi, sleeping. So we can't be the judge for other people. So therefore, we have to make some practical rules. Say, no, if you tell me you're chanting, I'm not going to sit at your house and watch you chant. I accept your word. Things like that.
Right. Okay, Prabhuji.
So there are criteria for deserving. They may not be stringent enough. And some gurus are very stringent. For example, some gurus will not give you initiation unless you finish reading Srimad Bhagavatam.
Right.
Yes, Prabhuji. You know what? I just took a little shelter from Jayapataka Maharaj, and you have to see how many books. Like there's about 4 books. All these 4 books I have to read once before the initiation.
Yeah, that's right.
And we were talking about chanting, right? Like when we first go to the temple, when we are the Kanistas, right? We are Karmis too. And everybody says, oh, chanting. And we think it's so easy to do chanting. But chanting is one of the hardest things to do because we are doing offensive and less offensive than the pure form. Like, you know what? Honestly, I don't think anybody does really pure chanting.
Yeah,
unless
so,
it's 1 or 2 people.
We all chant, but we don't chant good quality rounds. We don't chant attentively. We don't chant without offenses, all those kind of things. So yeah, chanting is easy if you just don't care. But it's not easy if you want to put the quality in there. Hari bol, Damodar Charan Prabhu ki jai ho. Hari Banyan.
सुबह डालेंगे
हरी झंडी आ गई.
Sorry.
हरी झंडी आ गई प्रभु.
हाँ, नंद पत्नी माता जी आप कुछ कह रहे थे? आप कुछ कह रहे थे क्या?
नहीं जी.
Okay, all right.
Prabhu, I had a question. So many people say that attentive chanting, qualitative chanting, right? But
sorry, I could hear. Say again.
Many people say qualitative, attentive chanting. काफी लोग बोलते हैं ये, but there is always like a little bit of contradictory information based on what is qualitative chanting. For example, some people say that when you people say, sorry, now can I, yeah. Some people say that qualitative chanting means that you have to just focus on Harinam, like it should be just Harinam. But practically it just doesn't make, at least to me, it doesn't make sense. Like, what do you mean by saying just focus on Harinam? Now, some people, like there are many sannyasis and gurus in our movement who have made statements saying that while you're chanting, you can think about Krishna and his pastimes. So what exactly qualitative chanting by definition means?
Well, so as you said, it sounds like it's a controversial question. If you're getting different answers from different gurus, then it's a controversial question. I'm not qualified to answer, but what my guru has told me, I can only repeat that. And he says that focus on the words, focus on the sound vibration. So as a matter of fact, I know that my wife has asked him multiple times because she likes to think of leelas when she's chanting. And every time he said, focus on the sound, focus on the sound.
So वही मेरा problem है. I also like to think about leelas while chanting.
Well, so I mean, it's better than thinking about Bollywood movies, right? I mean, let's face it, or thinking about your plans for the day or the year and difficulties you're having in your work or whatever, is better than that. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu, for answering that.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Prabhuji, I just want to add something like, जैसे Prabhuji ने question पूछा that what's the criteria? So like Prabhupada had Shrutkirti Prabhuji had shared once that Prabhupada tells them that I chant because I love chanting. You chant because you promised to chant. So I think that is a level that's the goal, right? So when you feel like chanting.
So that's the taste, right? We have to get to this stage of having a taste for the name. Right now we have no taste. That's why we have to do sadhana bhakti. We're forced to do it. We promised to do it, or forced to do it, or whatever. We made a promise. So that's because we don't have taste. This is why once somebody asked Prabhupada, is it better to do 4 quality rounds than 16 non-quality rounds? And Prabhupada said that's a nonsense question, because if you did 4 quality rounds, you won't stop at 4. You won't stop at 64. You won't stop at 132. So there's no such thing as 4 quality rounds. You either have quality rounds or you don't have quality rounds. If you have quality rounds, you won't stop because you have the taste. Our problem is we don't have the taste, so it becomes quantity. Okay. All right, let's start. It's 9:45. So let's finish now, and then we'll meet next week, Thursday. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Patitanam pavanebhyo
Namo Namah.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Jai Prabhu.
Thank you, everyone.
Jai Hari Bol.
Sabki bhi jai.
Sabki jai. How are you doing, Isha? I just saw you.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I'm good.
Good.
Thank you so much for asking and even for your email.
You're very welcome. Any chance you can put your video on? Or
Yeah,
unless
sure.
you're having a bad hair day or something.
Yeah, I just no. It's just I have been working from home like
Oh, yeah, no
for
worries.
literally
No
2
worries. It's
years
okay. It's okay.
now. So
It's okay. No problem.
so that's why I've always had to join from my phone. So but I can still put my video on.
No, it's okay. Don't worry. It's okay. Next time.
No, it's okay. Hello.
Oh, there you are. Hare Krishna. This
Hare Krishna.
this devotee is in Australia. So we have a devotee from Singapore, Nikunj Madhvi Mataji, and we have a devotee from Australia joining us. And she's very
Yeah, you have devotees from all over the world, Prabhuji, joining you.
Wonderful. It's wonderful. I'm so happy
Yeah.
that you're able to find time to do this. It's about 11:45 for you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's 11:45.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make you talk because I love your accent. So the more you speak, it's such a beautiful accent.
It's not actually, Prabhuji. Like a lot of people struggle to understand. Australian accent is not I would say, nice accent. British accent is.
So whatever, whether it's your accent British or Australian, it's very nice. But actually, it's funny you said that, because I was recently in Whistler in British Columbia, and they have a lot of Australian kids serving. And every time they say something, I say, what? And they were laughing because everybody does the same thing. Nobody can understand their accent.
I know.
But
yeah.
yours is great. It's just wonderful.
Man, probably mine is a mix of Indian and Australian. Yeah, that could be the reason.
Yeah. But anyway, it's very nice. Very nice. Always glad to have you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for all the classes. I literally look forward to your class, and that's probably my Friday. I don't look forward to Friday because I have weekend off. I do look forward to Friday because of your class. But yeah, thank you so much for doing this wonderful service.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming. Take care.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.